everyone, I'm Seline Shenoy, the Director of Relationship Intelligence at Say Allo, a dating app created for the intelligent dater. Today I'm speaking with Cheryl Muir, a leading expert in relationships who specializes in helping creative women overcome their dating drama fast. Cheryl, how is it going?
I'm doing really, really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you joining us all the way from London in the United Kingdom. We are going global here at Say Allo today, which is quite appropriate given today's topic on virtual video dates.
Yeah, exactly. This could happen from anywhere. We could be having a virtual video date with someone somewhere else in the world, right?
Exactly. Well, glad to have you with us, Cheryl. So we'll jump right into it, shall we?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, perfect. So my first question is, why do you think video dates have become so popular?
They definitely increased in popularity during the pandemic because we didn't have very much in the way of options other than to meet on Zoom and FaceTime and all the other mediums because we were all locked down. I do think it's something that's going to continue though, because it's something that should have been happening anyway. So I always recommend that if we are meeting someone on a dating app, or maybe we've met them on Instagram or Twitter, or we've met them online somewhere, we can save ourselves a lot of time and a lot of energy by having a quick FaceTime chat or even a good old talk on the phone before we actually go out and meet in person. So even though it's increased in popularity because of lockdown, even post-lockdown, it's something that's going to continue because it takes a lot of time to go out and get ready for dinner and, drive and park and pay for dinner and be there for hours and hours, when we can have a quick chat for 20-30 minutes and we both know if it's a fit or not and whether or not we want to move forward and meet in person. So it should really be the first step.
Right. I mean, do you think people can sense whether there's a connection through a video date?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to answer that in a slightly maybe unusual way, in that the way that I run my business is I meet all of my clients for sessions on Zoom. So a lot of the time we've never met in person, and yet I've got a really, really good rapport with all of my clients, albeit yes, that's work and that's not dating, but you can form a rapport very, very quickly over something like Zoom or FaceTime. So yeah, people absolutely can feel that chemistry and feel that connection, whether it's through a screen or whether it's in person.
Okay. And what are some things that we could do to prepare for a video interview, a virtual date? And how is it different from a regular date where you meet someone in person?
Yeah, I like to treat it, or I tell my clients as well, to treat it in the same way that we would if we were meeting in person. So we get ready, we still put on the perfume, even though they're not able to tell. But
Really?
yeah, because then we can tell, we get fully dressed. We don't just get dressed from like the waist up, we put on a full outfit. Because even if they don't know, we know. And we show up slightly differently when we know that we've made an effort and we're fully dressed from the waist down and we're not wearing just like shorts or something, like when we've dressed like we would for an in-person date. And the other thing that I touched on there as well is senses. So when we're on a video date, we can hear them, we can see them. There's some other of our senses that are not in the mix as they would be if we were face to face having a coffee or having a dinner. So we could do something as simple as both agreeing to make a coffee together. So you both literally show up for the video date and have a mug of coffee or a mug of tea. So we're both drinking that, and it's very subtle psychologically, but it brings us together because we're both doing the same thing. Or we can go a little bit next level and we can both order in food or both make dinner and eat together so that it's like having a dinner date. That works really, really well if we're locked down and we literally cannot get out to see them. And it actually works really well for couples who are long distance as well. It's obviously not going to be a substitute for being in person. And of course, we're missing physical touch and we can't really simulate that online. It's very difficult. But it's the next best thing. So it's treating it as if we're face to face and the screen is just something that's in front of us and we're almost imagining the person is with us, and that it can make it feel like we're together, even though we know it's just really the next best thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. But if it's like a first or a second date, how do you bring it up? You don't want to seem like you're trying to party, like, oh, let's prepare dinner, like,
That would be more like the second and third virtual date. That's a little bit down the line. But
that's what I was thinking, right? So
yeah. Not the first one. Although, if we're having a first date and our partner says, you know what, I'm going to order in food and send it to you, and I'm going to order in food for me. I actually know someone who did that. And she
oh,
thought it was very romantic and really sweet. So, I guess it depends, right? But certainly if we're meeting with someone, just like we'd meet them at a coffee shop, we'd meet them in that kind of environment, it's the same thing. We can just say, hey, I'm going to make a cup of coffee and I'm going to drink that while I talk to you. Is that all right? And they might do the same thing, and it's kind of fun. And, that was certainly a lot more common during lockdown, because we were all trying to do things that made it feel a bit more normal.
yeah. And I think another reason why people like video dates is because you can see the body language, right? Because that also tells us volumes about the person.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see them and hear them. So there's a lot that we can take from that, for sure.
Right, as opposed to just texting and trying to analyze every single word where,
Which is a nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, the
Totally.
chances of misinterpreting what someone says on text is like really high.
Absolutely. And that's why, it's interesting, because we often take it from texting to an in-person coffee or dinner date, and it's almost too big of a leap. So that's why, pandemic or no pandemic, it's really, really good to have a FaceTime or a video call in between that, because it makes it a little bit less of a leap, right? We've gone from texting to FaceTime, and then we get a little bit of time talking to each other, and it's less weird if we meet in person, right? We're bridging that gap. We're getting the facial expressions, we're seeing them, we're in real time, whereas texting can be so impersonal, and it's like you said, it's so difficult sometimes to read in between the lines of what someone's saying. Whereas if you have their expression, you have their tone of voice, you can see them, it adds a lot more nuance that we can't pick up via text.
Yeah, that's why, at Say Allo, we're really focusing on increasing our inbuilt video dating features. Recently, we just launched a new speed dating feature called Say Allo Live, and
That's amazing.
and that's why we felt the need to speak to an expert like you to get your thoughts on how our users can really utilize this new feature. So, with that being said, we'd love to hear your do's and don'ts for video dating.
Yeah, so a lot of it is similar as if we were meeting in person. So it's be clear, like, when are we meeting and where. So that obviously in person, that might be it's the coffee shop at this particular place at 11 a.m. Whereas if it's a virtual date, we're meeting at 11 a.m. on FaceTime, and I'll call you. So it's being clear on the logistics, just as we would as an in-person date, when and where. The other thing, of course, is be on time. Be respectful. Even though it's a digital virtual date, we still want to be respectful of the other person's time. And if they're not respectful of ours, or vice versa, that might be something that's a bit of a red flag. If someone's canceling at the last minute or showing up really, really late. And
Yeah.
the other thing, of course, is to be honest, right? Show up, be honest, and be yourself. So yeah, they're my three top tips.
Right. And I think it's a good way to weed out the players and those who aren't very reliable, because it seems like with these video dates, it does require some planning and some attention to detail.
Absolutely. Yeah. It requires someone to show up and give a commitment of time. And
Mhm.
I think it's a pretty basic thing to show up for a FaceTime date, and if someone's not able to do that, then we've probably saved ourselves a lot of time, and that's a good thing. We can move forward from there.
Right. Okay, so do you have any advice for those who are camera shy, who feel a little bit uncomfortable about being in front of the camera and being in the spotlight?
I have a very controversial perspective on this, actually. I don't think there's any such thing as being camera shy. I think confidence is something that actually impacts every area of our life. So if we're feeling a little bit shy behind the camera, confidence is probably something that would come up if we were on an in-person date, or if we were giving a talk at work or giving a speech or something. Confidence is something that doesn't really it doesn't show up in one area and then not in others. So really the key is, specific to dating and virtual dating, is to speak really kindly to ourselves before the date. So saying positive things to ourselves, looking in the mirror after we've got ready and saying something nice to ourselves, like, you know what, you look really, really good. And we can go a step deeper with that and actually pay a compliment to ourselves. And this is going to be so uncomfortable, for so many of us, it really was for me when I started doing this kind of inner work and really working on my own self-love, is to look in the mirror and actually say something about ourselves that we really, really love and admire. So not specific to how we're appearing that day, but something like, you know what, I really, really love that I'm intelligent and creative, and I really value that. Or I love that I'm a really decent, honest person, or I love my generosity. And we say that to ourselves, looking in the mirror. Yes, really, we really, really, really do this. I know it feels uncomfortable. And then what happens is because that's so specific to us, we know that we love our creativity or our intelligence or our honesty or our morals or whatever it is that we value about ourselves. And then that shows on the outside because we feel really good, and then we have that kind of glow and that radiance and that confidence, which then translates during the day.
Yeah, I love that. So changing that inner dialogue within us, making it more
Absolutely.
positive, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's really, really important. Do you suggest practicing a little bit before we do these dates? Like
I
go,
don't.
yeah,
No, no, I don't. It's just about showing up and being yourself. But
yeah.
if we are a bit worried of like, what if I don't know what to say, we could write down beforehand 3 questions that we definitely want to ask, and we
Okay.
could kind of have that to the side as a little like safety net in case the conversation dries up or we get nervous and we lose our train of thought. And
Yeah.
there are 3 things that are either fun and interesting or something that's important that we'd want to know about them. So we can come back to those questions and just going to have them on the side to help us out. But other than that, I think when we prepare for something like that, it comes across as quite rehearsed and structured and masculine,
Yeah.
especially for women.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's a lot better for us to be able to kind of lean back and go with the flow and just be really receptive and in the moment with that person and unattached to the outcome of what's going to happen, because we don't know if we're going to get along or if it's going to be great or how it's going to be. So just to remain kind of unattached to who shows up on the other end of the screen.
Yeah. And if there are too many awkward silences, then you kind of know that no, this may not work.
Exactly. You know whether there's that spark or not. And yeah, that's really, really clear over video for sure.
Right, right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for,
Thank you.
those were some great tips on video dating that you shared with us. Could you please let us know where we can find you on the web?
Absolutely. I spend most of my time on Instagram and YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. My handle there is Cheryl J Muir, and just type in my name into YouTube and you will find me there as well.
Great. Thanks, Cheryl. You have a
Thank you.
lovely evening out there in England.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
For more dating and relationship advice, please visit us at justsayallo.com. Thanks, everyone.